Have you ever found yourself standing in a room filled with everything you thought you wanted, yet a quiet, persistent hum of dissatisfaction still echoes in the background? Perhaps you've achieved a long-sought-after goal, acquired a desired possession, or reached a milestone that society deems a hallmark of success, only to find the elation is fleeting, quickly replaced by a new yearning, a fresh target on the horizon. You're not alone in this experience. It's a common thread in the fabric of modern life, this relentless pursuit of more, often leaving us feeling paradoxically less fulfilled. We live in an age of unprecedented abundance for many, with access to information, technology, and material comforts that our ancestors could scarcely have dreamed of. Yet, alongside this material progress, there seems to be a parallel rise in anxiety, a pervasive sense of restlessness, and a feeling that true, deep-seated contentment remains tantalizingly out of grasp. This feeling, this gnawing sense of not enough, isn't a personal failing. It's often the outcome of what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill, the human tendency to quickly return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative events or life changes. We achieve something, feel a temporary boost, and then our baseline resets, and the pursuit begins anew. Compounding this are the ceaseless whispers of society: you need this gadget to be efficient, that experience to be cultured, this accolade to be worthy. Social media, a curated gallery of idealized lives, often amplifies this, presenting a constant stream of others' apparent triumphs and possessions, subtly nudging us towards comparison and the fear of missing out. We are, in many ways, conditioned to look outward for our sense of well-being, to measure our worth by external yardsticks. But what if there was another way? A path not of endless striving for external validation, but of cultivating an unshakable inner citadel of peace and joy. What if true contentment wasn't about acquiring more, but about desiring less, or rather, desiring differently? 1. The nature of desire and the tyranny of more. To embark on our Stoic journey towards contentment, we must first understand one of its most significant adversaries, our own desires, particularly the insatiable craving for more. The Stoics were not ascetics who condemned all pleasure or desire. They were, above all, realists about human nature. They understood that desires are a fundamental part of our experience. However, they made a crucial distinction, most notably articulated by Epictetus, between desires that are natural and necessary, those that are natural but not necessary, and those that are neither natural nor necessary. Think about it: the desire for food when hungry, for shelter when cold, for companionship, these are natural and, to a degree, necessary for our survival and basic well-being. Then there are desires for, perhaps, more refined foods, a more comfortable home, or a wider circle of friends. These might be considered natural, stemming from our human inclinations, but not strictly necessary for a good life. And then, Epictetus would point to a vast category of desires that are neither natural nor necessary: desires for fame, for immense wealth beyond our needs, for power over others, for luxurious possessions that serve only to inflate the ego. It is this last category, the Stoics argued, that often becomes the breeding ground for our deepest anxieties and dissatisfactions. Why is this so? Because these desires, by their very nature, are often insatiable and largely dependent on external factors that lie outside our direct control. If your happiness hinges on achieving widespread fame, you are at the mercy of public opinion, a notoriously fickle master. If your contentment is tied to amassing vast riches, you may find yourself in a perpetual state of striving, where enough is always just a little bit more than what you currently possess. Seneca, in his Letters from a Stoic, powerfully addressed this when he wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This isn't just a clever turn of phrase, it's a profound psychological insight. Poverty, in the Stoic sense, is not merely a lack of material possessions, but a state of mind defined by perpetual wanting. A billionaire who is consumed by the desire to become a trillionaire can be, in this Stoic understanding, poorer in spirit than a person of modest means who has cultivated an appreciation for what they have. This ancient wisdom resonates with striking clarity in our modern world. We are immersed in a culture of consumerism that constantly bombards us with messages that we are incomplete without the latest product, the newest upgrade, the most fashionable trend. Our value, it often seems, is measured by what we own, what we wear, what we display. Social media platforms, while offering connection, can also become arenas of relentless comparison. We scroll through curated highlight reels of others' lives, their exotic vacations, their picture-perfect families, their career achievements, and a subtle poison of envy can seep in. We begin to desire not what we genuinely need for our own flourishing, but what we see others have, or what society tells us we should want. This is the tyranny of more, a restless pursuit fueled by external validation, leading not to lasting satisfaction, but often to a deeper sense of inadequacy. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, constantly reminded himself to strip away the superficial layers of things, to see them for what they truly are, devoid of the exaggerated value that opinion and desire often attach to them. He would, for example, reflect on a gourmet dish not as a symbol of status or a source of intense pleasure, but simply as the dead body of a fish, the dead body of a bird or a pig. This wasn't to deny himself enjoyment, but to keep his desires in check, to prevent them from ruling him. He sought to find satisfaction in the right use of his reason, in fulfilling his duties, in living virtuously, things that were within his control. Transition to a reflective prompt. So, let us pause for a moment and engage in a small reflective exercise, in the spirit of the Stoics. Slower pace, take a mental inventory of the desires that are currently active in your life. What are the things you are striving for, working towards, perhaps even worrying about achieving? As you list them, gently ask yourself, is this desire natural and necessary for my well-being? Is it natural, but perhaps not strictly necessary? Or is it neither natural nor necessary, perhaps fueled by external pressures, comparisons, or a craving for validation? There's no judgment in this exercise, only observation. The goal is not to eliminate all desires, but to understand their origin and their nature. Are they serving your pursuit of a genuinely flourishing life, a life of eudaimonia? Or are they perhaps subtle architects of your restlessness? Consider what might happen if you were to loosen your grip, just a little, on those desires that fall into the third category. What space might that create? What energy might that free up? I recall a story about a talented architect, let's call him Thomas. From a young age, Thomas was driven. He excelled in his studies, landed a prestigious job at a top firm, and quickly climbed the ranks. His life was a whirlwind of high-stakes projects, award ceremonies, and features in glossy magazines. He had all the external markers of success, a sprawling minimalist apartment, a European sports car, a wardrobe full of designer clothes. He should have been ecstatic. Yet, late at night, after the applause had faded and the deadlines were met, a persistent hollowness would visit him. The more he achieved, the more he seemed to desire, a bigger firm, more iconic buildings, greater international recognition. His desires were like a horizon that receded the faster he moved towards it. One day, during a forced sabbatical due to burnout, Thomas found himself volunteering at a small community project, helping to design a simple, functional, yet beautiful space for underprivileged children. There were no accolades, no grand pronouncements, just the quiet satisfaction of using his skills to create something genuinely useful, something that brought tangible joy to others. He worked with basic materials, faced numerous constraints, and yet, he found a sense of purpose and contentment that had eluded him in his high-flying career. It was a profound realization. His previous desires, he saw, had been largely for external validation, for the more that society applauded. His newfound satisfaction came from an inner sense of value, from aligning his actions with his deeper principles. Thomas didn't abandon architecture, but he reoriented his practice. He began to focus on projects that had social impact, that prioritized human well-being over ostentatious design. He still worked hard, but his desires were now tempered by a different kind of ambition, an ambition for meaning, not just for more. His life became less about the relentless pursuit of external accolades and more about the internal coherence of living by his values. He found that true contentment wasn't in the size of the project, but in the sincerity of his purpose. This story, though perhaps specific, touches upon a universal Stoic truth: when our desires are misaligned with our true nature and with what is genuinely good for our soul, they become a source of turmoil. But when we learn to master them, to choose them wisely, they can become a source of motivation towards a life of virtue and genuine fulfillment. The first step, then, in the Stoic art of contentment, is to become a discerning gatekeeper of our own desires, to ask not just, what do I want, but, why do I want it, and is it truly conducive to my flourishing? This self-awareness is the seed from which a more contented life can grow. And it leads us directly to the cornerstone of Stoic practice, understanding what is, and what is not, within our power. 2. The dichotomy of control, the foundation of inner peace. Imagine you're sailing a small boat across a vast ocean. You can diligently adjust your sails, skillfully steer the rudder, and meticulously maintain your vessel. These actions are within your power. However, you cannot control the wind, the waves, or the sudden storms that may arise. If you peg your happiness and peace of mind to the ocean always being calm and the wind always being favorable, you are setting yourself up for inevitable frustration and disappointment. But if you focus your energy on mastering your sailing skills, on responding to the changing conditions with wisdom and resilience, then, regardless of the weather, you can maintain a sense of agency and inner calm. This simple analogy captures the essence of one of the most fundamental and liberating principles in Stoic philosophy: the dichotomy of control. First clearly articulated by Epictetus in his Enchiridion, or Handbook, it is a powerful tool for navigating the complexities of life and serves as the bedrock for Stoic contentment. Epictetus states it with stark clarity: some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. What is up to us? According to the Stoics, this sphere includes our own thoughts, our judgments, our desires, as we've just discussed, specifically our reasoned choice of desires, our aversions, our intentions, and our actions, in essence, the workings of our inner world and our volitional responses. These are the domains where we have direct, sovereign control. What is not up to us? This encompasses a vast array of external factors: our bodies, in terms of health, aging, accidents, our possessions, they can be lost, stolen, or damaged, our reputation, it depends on others' perceptions, our social standing, the actions of other people, the laws of nature, past events, and future outcomes. No matter how much we might wish it otherwise, these things are ultimately beyond our complete and direct command. The Stoic insight is that a great deal of our human suffering, our anxiety, anger, frustration, disappointment, and despair, arises from a fundamental confusion between these two categories. We expend enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy trying to control what is uncontrollable, while often neglecting the very things we can control, our own inner responses. Think about the daily anxieties that plague many of us. Worrying about whether a presentation will be well received by colleagues, their opinion is not up to us, though our preparation is. Fuming over a traffic jam, the traffic is not up to us, though our choice of departure time or our reaction to the delay is. Agonizing over a past mistake, the past is not up to us, though learning from it and acting differently now is. In each case, the distress stems not from the event itself, but from our desire to control an outcome that is fundamentally outside our jurisdiction, or from our judgment that the event is bad or unbearable. The liberating power of the dichotomy of control lies in its ability to redirect our focus. When we truly internalize this principle, we cease to be emotional victims of circumstance. Instead, we become empowered agents, concentrating our efforts where they can make a genuine difference, on shaping our own character and responses. This doesn't mean becoming passive or fatalistic about external events. The Stoics were often highly engaged in public life. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, Seneca a statesman. They acted vigorously in the world. However, they did so with a crucial mental reservation: they focused on doing their duty, on acting virtuously and to the best of their ability in any given situation, but they accepted that the ultimate outcome was not entirely in their hands. They aimed for a good shot, but whether the arrow hit the bullseye was subject to the wind and other factors. Their success was in the quality of their effort and intention, not solely in the result. How can we begin to apply this profound principle in our daily lives to cultivate greater peace and contentment? It starts with mindful awareness. Identify the source of distress. When you feel a negative emotion rising, anxiety, anger, sadness, pause. Ask yourself, what specific thought or situation is triggering this feeling? Apply the dichotomy. Now, analyze that trigger. Is the thing you are concerned about, or reacting to, something that is truly up to you, or is it not up to you? Be brutally honest. Refocus your energy. If it's not up to you, e.g., someone else's bad mood, a flight delay, a critical comment, then consciously practice letting go of the desire to control it or change it. Remind yourself that your peace doesn't have to depend on this external factor. Instead, shift your focus to what is up to you. How will you choose to respond? Can you maintain your composure? Can you reframe your judgment about the situation? Can you find an alternative course of action that is within your power? If it is up to you, e.g., your effort on a project, your choice of words in a difficult conversation, your decision to exercise, then pour your energy into acting with wisdom, courage, and excellence in that domain. This is where your true power lies. Let's try a practical exercise right now. Take a moment, perhaps with a pen and paper, or just in your mind. Draw 2 circles. Label the first one, circle of control, and the second one, circle of concern. In your circle of concern, list all the things that are currently worrying you or causing you stress. This could be anything from global events to a personal relationship issue, a work deadline, or a health concern. Now, look at that list. For each item, ask yourself, is this truly within my direct and complete control? If the answer is yes, move it into your circle of control. If the answer is no, or only partially, acknowledge that while you might be concerned about it, your direct control over it is limited or non-existent. The goal of this exercise is to visually represent where your mental energy is being directed. The Stoic aim is to shrink the energy we waste on the uncontrollable elements in our circle of concern, and to maximize our focus and effort on the things firmly within our circle of control. This isn't about ignoring problems, but about addressing them from a position of empowered agency rather than helpless anxiety. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, constantly coached himself on this. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." He understood that his inner citadel, his ruling reason, was his fortress. External events could besiege it, but they could not conquer it unless he allowed his judgments to betray him from within. Consider the story of Sarah, a dedicated project manager who had poured months of her life into a crucial company initiative. The launch day was approaching, and she had meticulously planned every detail. However, a week before the launch, a key supplier unexpectedly went bankrupt, throwing a critical component of the project into jeopardy. Sarah's initial reaction was panic and immense frustration. All her hard work seemed on the verge of collapse due to something completely outside her control. She could have spiraled into despair, blaming the supplier, blaming her luck. But Sarah had been studying Stoic principles. She took a deep breath and applied the dichotomy of control. The supplier's bankruptcy? Not up to her. The potential failure of the project due to this? Not entirely up to her. Her own response, her problem-solving efforts, her communication with her team and stakeholders? Absolutely up to her. She shifted her energy. Instead of dwelling on the uncontrollable, she rallied her team. They brainstormed alternative suppliers, explored contingency plans, and worked tirelessly to find a workaround. She communicated transparently with leadership about the challenge and the steps they were taking. The launch was ultimately delayed by a few weeks, and it wasn't as smooth as originally planned. But by focusing on her own actions, her own resourcefulness, and her own leadership, Sarah managed to salvage the project and earn the respect of her colleagues for her calm and effective handling of a crisis. She found a strange sense of peace amidst the chaos, because she knew she was doing everything within her power. The outcome was still uncertain, but her inner state was grounded. She had controlled what she could control. The dichotomy of control is not a one-time fix, but a lifelong practice. It is a discipline of the mind that, when cultivated, becomes a profound source of inner peace and resilience. It allows us to navigate the inevitable storms of life not as helpless victims, but as capable sailors, focusing on our skill and our response, finding contentment not in the absence of storms, but in our ability to sail well, regardless of the weather. And this acceptance of reality, this willingness to work with what is, rather than constantly fighting against it, leads us to another powerful Stoic concept, amor fati, the love of one's fate. 3. Amor fati and the view from above, embracing reality and finding beauty in fate. Imagine for a moment that every single thing that happens in your life, every joy, every sorrow, every triumph, every setback, every seemingly random encounter, is not just a haphazard occurrence, but an integral and necessary part of a larger, perfectly orchestrated cosmic design. Imagine further that your task is not merely to endure these events, but to actively embrace them, to welcome them as raw material for the expression of your own virtue and wisdom. This, in essence, is the profound Stoic concept of amor fati, the love of one's fate. This idea, often associated with the 19th century philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, has deep roots in Stoic thought. While Nietzsche's interpretation had its own distinct nuances, the core sentiment of affirming all of life, the good and the bad alike, resonates powerfully with Stoic teachings. For the Stoics, the universe, or cosmos, was a rationally ordered system, guided by logos, divine reason or natural law. Everything that occurred within this system, therefore, had a reason, a place, even if it was not immediately apparent to our limited human understanding. To resist what happens, to rail against fate, was seen not only as futile but as a source of profound inner turmoil, like a dog tied to a cart, as the Stoic Zeno is said to have illustrated. If the dog willingly follows the cart, it moves with ease; if it resists, it is dragged along anyway, suffering needlessly. Amor fati, then, is not a call to passive resignation or a blind acceptance of suffering. It is an active, courageous, and deeply affirmative stance towards reality. It is saying yes to life in its entirety. It is the understanding that setbacks, difficulties, and even tragedies, while painful, are also opportunities to practice courage, patience, resilience, wisdom, and justice. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, in so far as it stands ready against the accidental and the unforeseen, and is not apt to fall. He also famously stated, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is amor fati in its most practical form, seeing obstacles not as roadblocks, but as part of the path itself, challenges that can forge our character and reveal our strength. Consider how this mindset can transform our experience of daily frustrations. You're stuck in an unexpected traffic jam, late for an important meeting. The common reaction? Impatience, anger, stress. But what if, in that moment, you were to practice amor fati? You accept the reality, this traffic jam is happening. It is what it is. You then look for the opportunity within it. Perhaps this is a chance to practice patience. Perhaps I can use this unexpected quiet time to listen to an insightful podcast, or simply to observe my own reactions without judgment. Suddenly, the bad event is no longer merely a source of suffering, it becomes a training ground for virtue. This loving acceptance of fate is powerfully complemented by another Stoic practice, the view from above, or kataskopos. This is a meditative technique where one imagines rising above their immediate circumstances, looking down upon their own life, their city, their country, the entire earth, and even the vast expanse of the cosmos and the sweep of infinite time. Marcus Aurelius frequently employed this visualization in his meditations. He would remind himself of the swiftness of the passing of all things, and of their vanishing, of the infinity of time, past and to come, of the weakness of all matter. What is the purpose of such a perspective? It is manifold. To diminish the ego, from this cosmic vantage point, our personal anxieties, our petty grievances, our inflated sense of self-importance, begin to shrink. We see ourselves as small, transient parts of a much larger whole. This doesn't lead to despair, but to a kind of liberation from the tyranny of our own ego. To cultivate objectivity, by distancing ourselves from our immediate emotional reactions, we can see situations with greater clarity and objectivity, much like an impartial observer. To foster sympathy and connectedness, sympathy as seeing all of humanity spread out below, with its shared struggles and aspirations, can cultivate a sense of kinship and compassion. We realize that our individual suffering is part of a larger human story. To appreciate the transience of things, the view from above reminds us that all things are impermanent, empires rise and fall, fortunes are made and lost, even mountains eventually erode. This perspective can lessen our attachment to fleeting externals and encourage us to focus on what is enduring, our own character and virtue. Let's try a brief version of this practice. Speak slowly, with a calm, meditative pace, find a comfortable position. Close your eyes if you wish. Take a few deep, centering breaths. Now, imagine yourself gently floating upwards, leaving your immediate surroundings behind. Rise higher, seeing your home, your neighborhood, your city spread out beneath you. Continue to ascend. See your country, the continents, the curve of the earth, a beautiful blue marble suspended in the vast darkness of space. Drift further, past the moon, the planets of our solar system, until our sun is just another star among countless billions in the Milky Way galaxy. And our galaxy itself is but one of an unimaginable number of galaxies, stretching out into the infinite expanse of the cosmos. From this immense perspective, bring to mind a current worry or frustration that has been occupying your thoughts. See it from this vast distance. Notice how its perceived magnitude shifts. Notice the interconnectedness of all things, the endless cycles of creation and dissolution across eons of time. Pause, now, gently begin your descent, returning slowly through the galaxies, past our sun, back to our earth, our continent, our city, our room. Bring with you some of that expansive perspective, that sense of calm objectivity. End of exercise. This practice, regularly undertaken, can fundamentally alter our relationship with our daily troubles. It doesn't make them disappear, but it contextualizes them, reducing their power to overwhelm us. It helps us to see that, in the grand scheme of things, many of our anxieties are, as Marcus Aurelius might say, smoke and nothingness. Consider someone like Alex, who has just received a harsh critique of his work from his boss. His immediate reaction is defensiveness, anger, and a plummeting sense of self-worth. He replays the criticism in his head, feeling it as a personal attack. Now, imagine Alex practicing amor fati and the view from above. With amor fati, he might first accept the reality, this critique has happened. My boss said these words. Then, he looks for the opportunity, perhaps this is a chance to practice humility, to genuinely consider if there's truth in the feedback, even if it was delivered poorly. This is an opportunity to strengthen my work, to develop resilience in the face of criticism. He chooses to see it not as a defeat, but as data, as fuel. Then, engaging the view from above, Alex might imagine himself looking down on his office, his city. He sees millions of people going about their day, each with their own struggles, their own critiques, their own ambitions. He sees his own career as just one small thread in this vast tapestry. From this perspective, his boss's critique, while still relevant to his work, loses some of its emotional sting. It becomes less of an all-consuming personal catastrophe and more of a manageable professional challenge. He can approach it with greater calm and a more constructive mindset. Amor fati and the view from above are not about denying pain or difficulty. They are about transforming our relationship to pain and difficulty. They are about finding a way to say yes to the totality of our existence, to see even the challenging parts as necessary for our growth and as opportunities to live out our Stoic principles. They teach us that contentment is not found in a life devoid of problems, but in a mind that can find meaning and purpose within those problems, embracing the whole of our human experience with courage, wisdom, and a love for whatever fate may bring. This profound acceptance of the present, in all its forms, is further deepened when we actively cultivate gratitude and an awareness of our own mortality. For gratitude, memento mori, and appreciating the present, cultivating joy in the now. In our relentless modern pursuit of what's next, the next achievement, the next purchase, the next experience, it's remarkably easy to overlook the abundance that already surrounds us. We become so focused on the horizon of our desires that we fail to appreciate the ground beneath our feet, the air we breathe, the connections we already have. Stoicism offers powerful tools to counteract this tendency, to anchor us firmly in the present moment, and to cultivate a profound sense of joy and contentment through the practices of gratitude and memento mori, the remembrance of death, which in turn fuels a deeper appreciation for life itself. Stoic gratitude is not a superficial Pollyanna-ish optimism. It's a robust, reasoned appreciation for reality as it is, encompassing not only the good things but also the challenges. Why be grateful for challenges? Because, as the Stoics believed, challenges are the primary arena in which we can exercise and develop our virtue. A difficult person provides an opportunity to practice patience and justice. A setback offers a chance to cultivate resilience and wisdom. Seneca, in On Benefits, explores gratitude extensively, emphasizing that true gratitude is an internal disposition, a recognition of value received, independent of the material worth of the gift. He also pointed out a crucial aspect of contentment: no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. For he is not permitted to prove himself. In this light, even difficulties can be received with a kind of gratitude, for they allow us to discover our own strength. However, Stoic gratitude also involves a deep appreciation for the simple, often overlooked, gifts of existence. Marcus Aurelius would frequently remind himself to be thankful for his family, his teachers, his friends, and even for the basic fact of being alive and capable of reason. He understood that these were not guaranteed, that they were, in a sense, on loan from fortune. This leads to a practice of appreciating what we have while we have it, rather than only recognizing its value once it's lost. This appreciation is powerfully amplified by the Stoic practice of memento mori, remember you will die. This might sound morbid to modern ears, conditioned to avoid thoughts of mortality. But for the Stoics, it was a vital and invigorating spiritual exercise. Far from being a source of depression, reflecting on the finite nature of our lives was seen as a potent catalyst for living more fully, more virtuously, and more appreciatively in the present. If you knew your time was limited, and the truth is, it is limited, though we don't know the exact boundary, how would that change your priorities? Would you still sweat the small stuff? Would you postpone expressing love or forgiveness? Would you waste precious hours on trivial pursuits or endless distractions? The Stoics thought not. The awareness of death strips away the non-essential, clarifies what truly matters, and imbues each present moment with a heightened sense of value. As Seneca wrote, let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time. Living with memento mori as a quiet companion fosters several key aspects of contentment. Urgency for virtue, it encourages us to make the most of our time by focusing on what is truly important, developing our character, treating others well, fulfilling our duties. Reduced fear of death, by regularly contemplating mortality, we can diminish its terror. Death becomes a natural part of life, not something to be irrationally feared or denied. Intensified appreciation for the present, each day, each moment, becomes a gift to be savored, not taken for granted. Letting go of trivialities, faced with the backdrop of our mortality, many of our daily anxieties and petty concerns lose their perceived importance. How can we integrate these profound practices into our lives? Stoic gratitude journaling. Many people keep gratitude journals, listing things they are thankful for. To give this a Stoic twist, consider adding entries where you express gratitude not just for pleasant experiences, but also for challenges overcome, for opportunities to practice a virtue, e.g., grateful for the difficult conversation today, as it allowed me to practice courage and honesty, or for the simple fact of your own rational mind and ability to choose your response. You might also list things you currently have that you would sorely miss if they were gone, as a way of appreciating them now. Negative visualization, premeditatio malorum. While seemingly counterintuitive, the Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, or premeditating evils, misfortunes, can paradoxically enhance contentment. By contemplating the potential loss of things we value, our health, our loved ones, our possessions, our job, we achieve two things. We mentally prepare ourselves for adversity, making us more resilient if it strikes, and, more importantly for contentment, we cultivate a profound appreciation for what we currently have. When you imagine, even for a few moments, life without a certain comfort or a cherished relationship, you return to the present with a renewed sense of gratitude for its existence. It's not about dwelling on negativity, but about using contrast to illuminate current blessings. William B. Irvine, in his book, A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy, champions this practice as a key to Stoic happiness. Daily memento mori reflection. This doesn't need to be a lengthy or somber ritual. It can be as simple as a brief morning reminder, this day is precious and finite. I will strive to live it well. Or an evening reflection, if this were my last day, would I be content with how I lived it? Some people find it helpful to have a small object, a skull emblem, a specific coin, that serves as a physical reminder. The goal is to integrate this awareness into the fabric of your day, not to become obsessed with death, but to become more fully alive. Consider the life of a woman named Eleanor. For years, Eleanor lived in a state of chronic dissatisfaction. She was always focused on what was missing, a bigger house, a more exciting job, a more attentive partner. Her days were filled with a low-grade resentment and a feeling that life was passing her by without delivering the happiness she felt she was owed. Then, a health scare brought her face to face with her own mortality. It was a terrifying experience, but also a profoundly transformative one. As she recovered, she began to see her life through new eyes. The Stoic concept of memento mori, which she stumbled upon during her convalescence, resonated deeply. She started a simple practice. Each morning, she would spend a few minutes reflecting on the fact that her time was not infinite, and then she would list 3 things she was genuinely grateful for, things she might have overlooked before: the warmth of the sun on her skin, the taste of her morning coffee, a kind word from a stranger. Slowly, remarkably, her perspective began to shift. The big things she used to crave lost some of their urgency. The small things she used to ignore began to shine with a newfound beauty. She started to engage more deeply with her partner, appreciating his presence rather than focusing on his flaws. She found new satisfaction in her current job by focusing on the aspects she could control and the small ways she could make a difference. The fear of death didn't make her morbid, it made her more vibrant, more present, more grateful. Eleanor discovered that true contentment wasn't about changing her external circumstances nearly as much as it was about changing her internal landscape, by embracing gratitude and living each day with an awareness of its precious, finite nature. By practicing gratitude for what is, and by remembering that our time to experience it is limited, we naturally orient ourselves towards the present moment. We become less inclined to dwell on past regrets or future anxieties, and more focused on extracting the full value from the here and now. This appreciation for the present, cultivated through gratitude and memento mori, is a cornerstone of Stoic joy. And this joy is most solidly built when it is founded upon the consistent practice of virtue. 5. The 4 virtues as a compass to true flourishing, eudaimonia. Thus far, we've explored how mastering our desires, understanding the dichotomy of control, embracing our fate, and cultivating gratitude in the present can clear the path towards contentment. But for the Stoics, these were all in service of, and deeply intertwined with, a central aim: living a life of virtue. For them, virtue was not merely a moralistic concept or a set of abstract ideals, it was the very source and substance of eudaimonia, true human flourishing, a state of being that encompasses lasting well-being, meaning, and fulfillment. Contentment, in the Stoic view, is not a passive state of feeling good, but an active state that arises from living well, from consistently choosing to act in accordance with our highest rational nature. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues that serve as a compass for navigating life and achieving this flourishing: wisdom, Sophia; justice, dikaiosine; courage, Andrea; and temperance, sophrosine. These are not separate qualities to be cultivated in isolation, but interconnected facets of a single, unified excellence of character. Let's explore each one and how it contributes to lasting contentment. Wisdom, Sophia. For the Stoics, wisdom is the chief virtue, the understanding of what is truly good, what is truly bad, and what is indifferent. The only true good is virtue itself, and the things that partake in it, like virtuous actions. The only true bad is vice, and vicious actions. Everything else, health, wealth, reputation, pleasure, pain, life, death, falls into the category of indifference. This doesn't mean these things have no value or that we shouldn't prefer health to sickness, for example. It means they are not intrinsically good or bad in a moral sense, and our eudaimonia does not ultimately depend on them. Wisdom allows us to make sound judgments, to see situations clearly, to understand cause and effect, and to navigate the complexities of life with prudence and skill. It's about knowing how to live well. A wise person understands the dichotomy of control, knows which desires to cultivate and which to discard, and perceives the world with clarity, free from the distortions of passion and false belief. Contribution to contentment. Wisdom brings contentment by freeing us from the pursuit of false goods. When we understand that our happiness doesn't depend on acquiring more money or fame, we are liberated from the anxiety and frustration that attend such pursuits. Wisdom allows us to find satisfaction in the right use of our reason and in aligning our lives with nature. Example: a student facing a difficult exam. Wisdom isn't just about knowing the material, it's about understanding what's within their control, study, effort, mindset, and what isn't, the exact questions, the grader's mood. It's about approaching the exam with a calm, focused mind, doing their best, and accepting the outcome, knowing their worth isn't defined solely by the grade. Justice, dikaiosine. Justice, for the Stoics, extends beyond legal fairness. It is about treating all human beings with fairness, kindness, respect, and goodwill, recognizing our inherent interconnectedness as rational, social beings. It involves fulfilling our duties to our family, our community, and to humanity as a whole, the Stoic concept of cosmopolitanism, being a citizen of the world. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly emphasized our social nature: what is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. Justice means acting for the common good, even when it requires personal sacrifice. It is about integrity, honesty, and upholding our moral obligations. Contribution to contentment. Living justly brings a deep sense of inner coherence and peace. When we act with fairness and kindness, we build harmonious relationships and contribute to a better world, which in turn nourishes our own sense of well-being. There is a profound satisfaction that comes from knowing we have acted rightly, regardless of external reward. Conversely, injustice, deceit, and selfishness breed inner conflict and isolation. Example: a business leader faced with a decision that could increase profits but harm the environment or exploit workers. A just leader, guided by Stoic principles, would choose the path that aligns with fairness and the common good, even if it means lower short-term gains, finding deeper satisfaction in ethical conduct. Courage, Andrea. Stoic courage is not merely physical bravery in the face of danger, though it includes that. It is, more broadly, moral courage, the ability to face fear, pain, adversity, and difficulty with resilience and integrity. It's about standing up for what is right, even when it's unpopular or risky. It's about enduring hardship without losing one's composure or succumbing to despair. Courage is the virtue that allows us to act on the insights of wisdom and the requirements of justice, even when it's hard. It's the strength to persevere in our duties and to maintain our Stoic principles in the face of trials. Contribution to contentment. Courage brings contentment by freeing us from the grip of fear and anxiety. When we know we have the inner strength to face whatever life throws at us, we can live with greater confidence and peace of mind. Overcoming challenges through courage builds self-respect and a sense of agency. Example: Someone who speaks out against an injustice in their workplace, despite the risk of repercussions. Or someone who endures a chronic illness with fortitude and dignity, focusing on what they can still do and experience, rather than what they have lost. This is the courage Seneca admired when he said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Temperance, sophrosyne. Temperance, or moderation, is about self-control and balance in all things. It involves mastering our desires, appetites, and emotions, avoiding excess and living in accordance with reason. It's about knowing our limits, practicing discipline, and maintaining inner harmony. Temperance applies to food and drink, to pleasure-seeking, to our reactions to provocation, to our pursuit of wealth or possessions. It is the virtue that keeps us grounded and prevents us from being swept away by our impulses or by external allurements. Contribution to contentment. Temperance brings contentment by freeing us from the slavery of unchecked desires and passions. When we are moderate in our wants, we are more easily satisfied. When we control our emotional reactions, we maintain inner peace. Discipline and self-control lead to a sense of order and mastery over oneself, which is deeply fulfilling. Example: someone who enjoys good food and wine but does so in moderation, without succumbing to gluttony or dependency. Or someone who feels anger rising in response to an insult but chooses a calm, measured response instead of an emotional outburst, thereby maintaining their inner equilibrium. For the Stoics, these four virtues are not just abstract ideals to be admired, they are practical skills to be cultivated through daily practice. They are the very fabric of a well-lived life. True contentment, lasting eudaimonia, arises not from the fleeting pleasures of external circumstances, but from the deep, abiding satisfaction of knowing that you are striving to live as the best version of yourself, as a wise, just, courageous, and tempered human being. The focus is on the quality of our actions and our inner state, not on the outcomes. If we act virtuously, we have done our part, the rest is up to fate, and as we've learned, a Stoic embraces fate. As we consider these four pillars of a flourishing life, take a moment for self-reflection. Which of these four virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, or temperance, do you feel most strongly connected to in your life right now? Which one feels like it needs more conscious cultivation? What is one small, concrete action you could take today, or this week, to express or develop that particular virtue in a practical way? Remember, the Stoic path is one of constant progress, not instant perfection. Every small choice to act in accordance with virtue is a step towards greater inner peace and more profound contentment. It is in the consistent striving for excellence of character that we find a joy that is truly our own, unshakable by the vicissitudes of the external world. This is the robust, resilient heart of Stoic contentment. Conclusion: the enduring art of Stoic joy. We have journeyed together through some of the most profound and practical teachings of Stoic philosophy, seeking the keys to an unshakable joy, a true and lasting contentment in a world that often seems designed to keep us in a state of perpetual desire and agitation. What we've discovered is that the Stoic path to contentment is not a pursuit of external conditions, but a cultivation of our inner landscape. It's not about changing the world to suit our whims, but about changing ourselves to meet the world with wisdom, resilience, and an appreciative heart. We began by confronting the nature of our desires, learning from Epictetus and Seneca that true poverty lies not in having too little, but in craving too much. We saw how the relentless tyranny of more, fueled by societal pressures and comparison, can rob us of peace, and how the first step towards contentment is to become discerning gatekeepers of what we allow ourselves to want. Then, we delved into the cornerstone of Stoic practice, the dichotomy of control. This powerful principle, championed by Epictetus, offers us liberation by teaching us to focus our energy solely on what is up to us, our thoughts, judgments, and actions, while accepting with equanimity what is not. In this distinction lies the foundation of inner peace, freeing us from the anxiety of trying to command the uncontrollable. We explored the affirmative power of amor fati, the love of one's fate, and the perspective-shifting practice of the view from above. Marcus Aurelius showed us how embracing all of reality, even its hardships, as necessary and as opportunities for virtue, can transform obstacles into pathways. And by seeing our lives from a cosmic vantage point, our daily troubles shrink in significance, allowing for greater objectivity and a deeper connection to the whole. We learn that cultivating joy in the now is an art powerfully aided by the practices of Stoic gratitude and memento mori. Gratitude, for the Stoic, extends even to challenges, seen as training grounds for our character. And the remembrance of our mortality, far from being morbid, serves as an urgent call to live fully, to appreciate the preciousness of each present moment, and to prioritize what truly matters before our time is up. Finally, we turn to the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, the Stoic compass for navigating life and the very source of eudaimonia, or true human flourishing. We saw that contentment, for the Stoics, is not a fleeting emotion but the deep satisfaction that arises from consistently striving to live a life of moral excellence, guided by reason and aligned with our highest human potential. So, what is the overarching message for us today, living in our complex, fast-paced world? It is that Stoic contentment is not a passive state of apathy or resignation. It is an active, dynamic, and profoundly resilient form of joy. It is the joy that comes from self-mastery, from choosing our responses with care, from focusing on our own character rather than external achievements, and from finding beauty and meaning even amidst life's inevitable difficulties. It is the quiet strength of a mind at peace with itself, a mind that has learned to desire well, to act well, and to accept well. This path is not about achieving a state of perpetual bliss, free from all pain or discomfort. The Stoics were realists. They understood that life includes suffering. But they taught that our eudaimonia, our flourishing, need not be destroyed by it. By cultivating our inner citadel of reason and virtue, we can endure hardship with dignity and resilience, and find a contentment that is robust enough to withstand the storms of fortune. Let the words of Seneca resonate as we conclude this part of our journey. True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient, for he that is so wants nothing. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. The Stoic art of contentment is indeed an art, and like any art, it requires practice, patience, and perseverance. It is a journey, not a destination. So, I invite you now to take the wisdom we have explored today and begin to weave it into the fabric of your own life. Your Stoic challenge: choose just one practice or principle from our discussion today that resonated most deeply with you. Perhaps it's applying the dichotomy of control to a specific worry, starting a Stoic gratitude journal, practicing memento mori for a few minutes each day, or consciously focusing on cultivating one of the four virtues. Commit to practicing it consistently for the next 7 days. Observe what happens. Notice any shifts, however small, in your perspective, your emotional state, or your sense of contentment. Share your journey. We would be genuinely honored if you would share your experiences, your insights, or any questions you may have in the comments section below. This BAudio community is a place for shared learning and growth, and your reflections might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Support the channel. If this exploration of Stoic contentment has provided you with value, if it has sparked a new insight or offered a measure of peace, please take a moment to like this video. Your likes help others discover this timeless wisdom. Stay connected, and, if you haven't already, please subscribe to BAudio and hit the notification bell. We are dedicated to bringing you more deep dives into Stoic philosophy and other wisdom traditions to help you live a stronger, more meaningful, and more contented life. There is much more to explore on this path to flourishing. Remember, the power to cultivate an unshakable joy, a profound and resilient contentment, lies within you. It is not in what the world gives you, but in how you choose to receive it, how you choose to respond to it, and how you choose to live. As you go about your day, carry this question with you: what is one small way I can practice virtue and appreciate the present moment, right now? Thank you for joining us on this journey. May you find strength, wisdom, and deep contentment on your path.